John 5:29. Et procedant qui bona fecerunt in resurrectionem vitae, qui vero mala egerunt in resurrectionem judicii. And they will go forth who have done good things into the resurrection of life, but those who have done wicked things into the resurrection of judgment. I've given us a pretty literal translation there for a verse which is going on to explain what Jesus was saying in the earlier verse, that those who have died, those now in the tombs, soon will hear the voice of the Son of God, of the Son of Man. And we begin here with yet another opportunity to recognize, you guessed it, a future tense verb. This is third person plural, future active indicative from the third conjugation verb procedo, to go forth, to come forth. In some contexts, to succeed or to turn out well, but here it just has the literal basic meaning of come forth, come out of the tombs that have just been mentioned. And again, sorry, that's not the E which should be highlighted. Actually, it's this E which I should be highlighting. We have to note the difference between procedunt and procedent. And again, this is something you're going to notice probably only if you remember that it's procedo, procedere. That is, it's a third conjugation verb. Otherwise, you might not notice that there's a future tense here. Now, often the context will make it clear. Where there's other future tenses, there's likely to be a future tense in a verb that looks a little ambiguous to you. This problem is easily solved if you're unsure by looking up the original verb and reminding yourself to what conjugation it belongs. But this is one of the reasons we emphasize learning principal parts when you learn a new verb in Latin, so that at a moment's notice you can recall to what conjugation a verb belongs, and you can more accurately then diagnose what you got in front of you. You can parse what you've got in front of you more accurately. So, et procedent, they will come out of those tombs, has got to be understood, something like ex monumentis, again referring back to that previous verse. Those who have done good things, bona here is a substantive, adjective, plural and neuter, and here accusative as the object of fecerunt, those who have done good things. Now we've got to look back to procedent. It's to be taken together with in plus accusative, this phrase here. Into, remember, in plus accusative indicates motion into a particular region rather than just stationary position inside, which is what we would indicate with in plus ablative. Here, into the resurrection of life. Now, there's a bit of abstraction going on here, right? What does it mean, the resurrection of life? That means that these people are going to rise again for life. We might even say ad vitam, right? Our translator might have said that if he had wished. He's chosen to follow the Greek more closely, though, here in its compression. And again, we see a similar phrase here, in resurrectionem judicii, into the resurrection of judgment, literally. Now, the contrast is implied here, quite plainly, I think, between life and judgment. That is, judicium here means not just judgment, but adverse judgment. That is, we might say condemnation even, as opposed to vita, life, or judgment leading to death, mors, as opposed to judgment leading to life, vita. Of course, in a spiritual sense, because we're talking about the afterlife here, quite literally, afterlife. That's what resurrectio is meant to indicate. So there's some interesting things here in this verse. Mala, of course, again, a neuter plural substantive accusative after egerunt. Why egerunt and not a repetition of fecerunt to preserve the parallelism there? Well, they can mean the same thing in this sort of context. So, of course, it's from ago, agere, also the third conjugation. And ago agere can mean to do or to make sometimes, just as with facio facere. Here, probably our translator is aiming to approximate the usage of the Greek nt, which uses aorist participles from two different but synonymous words for doing or making in precisely the same way. So as always, we're finding that our text coheres very closely with the Greek New Testament text.